Hello and welcome everybody to a new episode of Deciphered right here on the CryptoCast Network. We have an amazing show for you guys actually today. We're going to be talking with the one and only Jack Mallers of the Zap wallet. But before we do that, we want to let everybody know that we are here at CryptoCast.network on the website where you can find the links to the YouTube and the iTunes and the RSS and the Twitter and all that good stuff. We actually we just launched a a merchandise portion of the website where you guys can check out the shirts if you want to support the show. We really appreciate it. We have some CryptoCast Network shirts on there and the Bitcoin News shirt on there, so it's really great. We really appreciate it if you guys could check that out. And of course, we do this webcast is supported by viewers like you. So we have our donation address here at the bottom of the site always, and we got again, guys, some more donations from you. So we really appreciate it. This is a network run by you guys, so we hope that we are delivering what you guys want. So we really appreciate that. And of course, we have the programmingwithbitcoin.com workshop right here, an interactive 2-day workshop where we teach C# developers how to begin working with Bitcoin with the Bitcoin library that is taught by both myself and Nicolas Doyer, the actual creator of the Bitcoin library. And we're going to be traveling all around the country right now. We're going to be headed to Las Vegas September 1st, San Francisco October 13th, and Seattle November 3rd. So it's going to be pretty fun, guys. We hope to see you there. And without further ado, let us stop screen sharing and introduce the man himself, the great and only Mr. Jack Mallers of the Zap wallet. Jack, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm a big fan of yours. I love coming on. So thank you for having me back. It's been a minute.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we've had you on the Bitcoin News Show before. We've had you on a bunch of stuff, and so now that I've basically forked the World Crypto Network into the CryptoCast Network, we're glad to have you on this network as well, Jack. And we hope to see much more here. We got to get you back on the Bitcoin News Show as well, so that's going to be pretty fun. But we have a lot of stuff to talk about, Jack. I know you've been a busy guy, man. You're one of the busiest people out there in crypto, so we got a few things to talk about. But before we do that, maybe we can just ask. What are you up to now? Like, what is the what have you been up to, and what are you up to at the moment? Before we start getting too much into the details of the Zap wallet and things like that, let's just talk about what have you been up to just recently.
Yeah. So I guess from a super high level, Zap is about helping people use the Lightning Network, and the Lightning Network comes with characteristics that are appealing to a large, vast, diversified group of audience. So we're talking about general consumers. Now we've delved into the merchant space a little bit, talked to some exchanges and some institutions about their interest in Lightning Network, and then trying to really feel out how we can be most helpful and impactful and push this stuff forward. So we've expanded our product set a little bit. Our contributors are growing, and we're starting to bleed into other projects as well, like BTC Pay in that article there. So I've just been trying to organize our direction and see where we can make the most impact and be the most helpful.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that's really great. We're seeing a lot of stuff come out from your team. I don't know if it's just you, man, or if you got a team, but there's a whole bunch of people, because you are working on open source software. So I'm sure you have a bunch of contributors that are very passionate about this as well. And so let's just ask, what is up maybe first with the iOS wallet? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's going on with that, and when we can expect it.
Yeah, so actually I can address the team thing because I would love to give a shout out to my contributors and my guys.
Absolutely.
I love the Zap community. It's a Bitcoin community in general is awesome, so generous, so giving. The bug reports and the help testing. And then my family, so the Bitcoin mom and my father, this has been largely a secret, but I think it's people know at this point, but we've been now supporting Bitcoin Core contributors and people innovating in the Lightning space and funding their development for some time now. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're working on Zap. So again, you could be contributing to Core, doing stuff on the protocol with Lightning in regards to that, or actually working on Zap or related technologies that'll help push this stuff forward. So as a family, we're very proud of that, to be using our hodlings to hopefully contribute some good to this space. So it is not just me. I'm trying to get more people involved. The real scarce resource in this industry is competent developers. So as soon as you find them, we would like to fund them. But yeah, I've been very happy to see the growth rate of development behind a lot of this stuff. It's really exciting.
Yeah, man, that is
And
just. Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead, please keep going.
oh no, go ahead. If you have anything to say, go for it.
No, man, I'll wait till you're done. Go ahead.
No, okay. Um, so yeah, as far as the iOS app goes, with Zap or just more in general, my approach to product is a very Chicago esque approach, and that is I get it from Jason Fried, the CEO of Basecamp, is a close mentor of mine, and the idea is that building a product that is helpful or really doing anything in life well, like being a good son, waking up in the morning on time, is really, really hard. So what we're trying to do with Zap is minimize our amounts of guessing, minimize our scope, minimize our general ambition for every single release, and really try and ship quickly and iterate on designs, iterate on ideas, iterate on features, and really try and understand the user as best as possible with frequent communication and frequent releases, so that we can actually build stuff that you guys want and that you guys actually find valuable. So as far as the iOS app goes, it is super early, because you have to scan a QR code to a remote node to actually use it and have some fundamental knowledge of the protocol itself and understand how all this stuff works. But we thought the sooner we can get this stuff in the hands of the people, the better, because no product guesses everything correct on their first try. Building a successful product is actually iterating continuously, almost floating on water. So we wanted to get this in the hands of as many people that were capable and start to learn about why people like Lightning, what they understand, what they don't, what makes sense, what doesn't. And you can start to see from these screenshots on the screen that we're actually iterating and we're learning and we're understanding what's appealing to folks and what they would enjoy. And our app is already making significant progress. So yeah, that's where iOS is at. One day soon, with the help of a lot of the work Lightning Labs is doing, we hope to have L&D on the phone so that there is no remote node set up. Even with autopilot and things like AMP, there won't even have to be channels at all. The node will do all of that for you, and routing will be super efficient, and it'll look more like a Venmo. But early days, we're getting there.
Absolutely, man. It's just really great to see some of these screenshots. For the audio listeners, we did share some of the screenshots of the actual iOS app that is in progress right now. And man, it is beautiful. I just got to say, Jack, it is really, really beautiful, pretty software. I mean, I think I tweeted it out. Like, this is what mainstream software looks like. This is the real deal. This is what people are going to actually use. And as you said, it really does start to look a lot like a Venmo once this thing is all completed. And I believe that you said that Neutrino was the what you're waiting for to be able to get this to work on the iOS in order to have the channels automatically open and work on the iOS. Is that what you said, Jack?
Yeah, so Neutrino is a light client implementation done by Lalu and Lightning Labs. So as always, shout out Lightning Labs, Stark, Lalu, and the whole team. They're fantastic. All the stuff I do is on top of their software, so shout out to them as always. So Neutrino is an implementation of a few BIPs, BIP 158 in particular. And this takes the Mike Hearn SPV implementation from years ago, and it's a new SPV implementation with Lightning clients in mind. It kind of reverses roles. It is a lot more resource intensive on the client itself and less so on the full node. But the idea is that the client now, if we want consumer-facing applications with smart contract capability, quote unquote, whatever smart contract means nowadays. But Lightning, for example, is you're constantly having to watch the chain and perform actions based on chain events. Like if someone's trying to cheat a channel state or opening a channel with you, etc., you need to fetch chain data from a full node to your phone and perform and act accordingly. So Neutrino is an implementation, of this new idea by Lalu. And BTCD is the only full node implementation that actually supports the BIP at the moment. There is an open pull request on Bitcoin Core by Jimpo of Coinbase. Shout out Jimpo. And so all of it is coming together right now. Actually, I believe this is kind of like the final phase of testing before mainnet. There's been a lot of optimizations and a lot of testing and architecture changes and such. And assuming that things like Zap 0.2.1, I know Lightning Labs is going to release their app soon. Assuming that goes well and nothing catastrophic blows up, then we'll start to see mainnet consumer apps. And then as far as the opening channels, Autopilot will see some improvements soon. So Autopilot is the automatic channel manager that is built inside of L&D. And then AMP will be a huge deal because AMP will improve the efficiency in routing. So right now, if I have $10 channel, I can't make a $20. If I have two $10 channels, I can't make one $20 payment, right? Because of this liquidity issue. And a lot of the Bcashers like to point out, like, good luck trying to make a $50 t-shirt purchase with Lightning because no one has a $50 channel open. But with AMP, you can actually leverage separate channels and combine different paths to make one total payment. So then all of a sudden, the resources involved in successfully routing a payment through the network are reduced. And I bet routing efficiency and such will go through the roof. So all of that, I would assume we get sooner than later. And that will be when we moon, as far as not speculating on the price, as far as Lightning goes, when you see people walking around with Zap in their pocket and scanning QR codes at bars, that'll be the day you don't even have to know what a channel is. That'll be the day where I'll shed a tear and smile for sure.
Absolutely, man. So well put, man. Definitely shed a couple tears for that day, because that day is coming. You know, a lot of people, a lot of naysayers of Lightning like to point to, oh, channels, users never going to understand channels. And of course, they're not going to understand channels, just like they're not going to understand how routing tables work for the internet. But the idea is to put that away, obfuscate that, push that in the background so the user never has to worry about that. And that is, of course, always where Lightning was headed, guys. This is always where it was headed, was ease of use, making this as easy to use as possible. But this stuff takes time, and people really like to point out how long Lightning has been taken to develop. And in my opinion, if you guys were actually following the space, following Lightning in particular, and following the development, you would see that everything's been absolutely perfectly progressive, just perfectly stair-stepped, progressive, evolved. When we need something, we build it. It takes a little while, we get it, then we build the next thing, and on we go. And like you say, we're just a couple of little building blocks away left now from it actually being viable for mainstream use. And that's something that really gets me excited when it comes to Lightning. And we'll talk, maybe get some of your predictions about the future of Lightning a little bit later to see what you think about that. But first, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the merchant solutions that maybe you are working together with BTC Pay Server. Of course, we had the fellas on there, Rockstar Dev and Nicolas Doyer on the Deciphered show just a few days ago. So make sure you guys check that out. We had a great time. We even demoed some integration, I believe, with the really quickly, but we did demonstrate integration from the Lightning Zap wallet to BTC Pay Server with just that copy and paste of a code. So it was really easy to use and really easy to integrate. That just is powerful in and of itself. But Jack, let me ask you, how is the merchant software part of it going, and what are your plans for this? And maybe just to go into that a little bit, describe more about that.
Yeah. So I generally only like to build products where I'm a user of, just because I don't like guessing and making assumptions. I really like to understand the problem the software is trying to solve. And turns out some friends and I will actually be merchants soon. And we want to accept Lightning for various reasons that I went through in the blog post. So it's going well. The first thing in building a product, for me at least, is learning, understanding who'd be using this, why it's important, what the value propositions are, where the trade-offs are, what needs to be in there, what would be nice to have, what an MVP looks like, and all of this. Nicholas, Rockstar Dev, some Zap contributors, we're all kind of just having open conversation and really exploring, because coding is what takes the time and the expertise, but you can very quickly iterate on ideas and concepts over conversation. So we've got a little bit of code. We've got some ideas. Obviously, the BTC Pay infrastructure is there on the back end, and it's now just about implementing the ideal experience for merchants. One of the main things I spent a ton of time on is talking to exchanges. I've talked to banks. I've talked to compliance officers to make sure that we're fully compliant and going from the US dollar to Bitcoin and vice versa, so that these merchants can accept Bitcoin at their own risk level, which is very important to them, so that you're not exposing yourself to super volatile asset and basically opening a long position. If you have bills to play, you can hedge accordingly. And so we'll have that as well. I know that as soon as I get a working product, which I think will be much sooner rather than later, depending on the priorities set for other Zap stuff, I will have huge Lightning parties in Chicago, and I'm down to do it anywhere else. There's some bars in Chicago that would love to accept the Lightning Network. And now that we have some consumer wallets like Zap, I'm going to just have everyone come to a bar in Chicago. Rockstar, Dev, and I will be there, and we'll throw down with some merchant services and celebrate. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Really? Oh man, that sounds awesome. Yeah, no, for the audio viewers, we are screen sharing an actual screenshot of the merchant software that was a screenshot of an early prototype of the merchant software. And this is just really beautiful, guys. I mean, you can see everything you need. You got your point of sales here, your ability to check out, shows all the products. I mean, it just very much resembles Apple-like user interface. It's just very Apple-esque, and it just seems really easy to use, really intuitive. How long have you been working on this particular merchant software, this point of sales stuff, and how far along are you on that progress?
I can go back in chat logs, probably a couple months, maybe a little bit more. So I reached out. Nicholas and I have been in open communication for a super long time. I love Nicholas. And so we've been chatting forever, and recently kind of came to the same realization, like, hey, we need to leverage each other. We can make a huge impact in the space. Doesn't seem like BitPay is getting their head out of their ass anytime soon. So let's do this dance. And that was probably a few months ago, where it was starting to get super serious, where it was starting to talk about, okay, yeah, in theory, this would be great, but the actual change is made in the execution. So what do the details look like? What needs to be done? What code needs to be written? And that probably started a few months ago, early summer, I would bet, is when I would dig up chat logs with Nicholas and I.
Awesome. So that sounds great. So it's been only a few months. Again, guys, this is all early stuff. So really glad to see you guys working together. It's really true. Really, the companies that are getting all of these millions of dollars of funding, like BitPay, they just seem to cannot be able to pull their head out of their freaking asses when it comes to be able to actually having some real merchant solutions. I mean, really, guys, the amount of fees that they charge, the software that they're using, the BIPs that they're supporting, it's terrible, and it is not what the ecosystem wants. It's not what the people want. I'm hearing reports that they're losing huge percentages of merchant software, of merchant fees, because people are just dropping BitPay like left and right, not just for the open source solution BTC Pay server, but just for other merchant other merchant solutions. There's a couple, there's a bunch of them, at least a half a dozen of them out there now that are all actually compliant with SegWit, compliant with the latest network upgrades and these type of things. That's really important to have. And so this is really great to hear, really great to see. I know that Nicholas, the English version is Nicholas. It's like, it's hard to always pronounce his name. The English version of Nicholas is Nicholas, but his actual name is Nicola. But I'm just gonna say Nick. So like, it's really great to see Nick creating these open source solutions, because he was in the same boat. He said that he needed something and there was nothing on the market, so he built it. And that's exactly what you guys are doing now together with the Lightning Zap wallet and the merchant services. So that's just really great to hear. Maybe you can even talk a little bit now about how you see the future of Lightning, maybe how far away you see, how far away off you see the Lightning network really coming into its own. We've discussed this a little bit just recently here in this podcast, but I think that maybe we can expand upon that a little bit further. Because like personally, I think I see all of this stuff happening within the next 18 months. So literally, like 18 months from now will be a whole new world where almost every single merchant, almost every single wallet, almost every single thing is on the Lightning Network. Because without being on the Lightning Network, it's almost like being on the internet without using the World Wide Web. You have to connect to the web somehow. You have to connect to the browser somehow for people to be able to use the internet in a modern day. So how do you see this playing out, Jack, and how long do you think this could take?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm in a Starbucks currently because I actually was coming from a meeting. I have been speaking to large institutional either trading firms, high frequency trading firms, institutional investors, OTC desks, all involved in the crypto space. And I'm walking around with some slide decks to give context, whenever they have questions. And one of the things I talked about today is that the idea of payment channels and trying to scale Satoshi's solution to the double spend problem, which is this global decentralized network where we have this distributed timestamp server that we all have a copy of, which we call the blockchain. So payment channels and trying to scale that out in an efficient way with layers is actually an idea as old as Satoshi and their emails themselves. Satoshi used to talk about this idea years ago. I think in 2010 was the latest before the disappearing. So anyway, point being is that this has been a long time coming, not just like I started Zap a year ago and we're almost home. This has been a long time coming. I think the first implementation by Matt Corallo and Mike Hearn was in 2011, maybe. So this has been a super long time coming. And point being is it's really unclear. Like I can speculate on it, which I will because I know that's what the people want. But don't take it home and make any bets on it. This stuff is super complicated. Decentralized fast development comes with its pros and its cons. The pros obviously outweigh the cons, but one of the cons is it's just not as efficient as a CEO walking in the room and pointing at a developer and telling them what to do. So it does take time. It is a collaborative effort between tons of teams and tons of people with different incentives. So 18 months, I love that time frame. That's plenty of time. That's actually probably generous. When I think we see consumer Zap wallets where you click a button to download it and all of a sudden you're on the Lightning Network on mainnet, I would definitely say before the year's over. I would say, I mean, if I'm being ambitious and confident, I'd say well before the year's over. But, I don't want the mob outside my house. So we'll go with the year's over. There's still tons of infrastructure. Like ideally, we want exchanges involved here, which would be a huge deal. Someone can buy Bitcoin and withdraw it from an exchange already on the Lightning Network, already having liquidity on their wallets, and there's really makes the onboarding process more efficient. That infrastructure should be built in. A lot of compliant work needs to go in. So I would love if someone could deposit $20 from their debit card in their Zap wallet, and then we give them liquidity in channels. So you go straight from your bank account into being able to scan QR codes on Lightning. That would be dope. There's a lot of infrastructure stuff to make this seamless. I mean, throughout technological evolution, when we look at the car, when we look at the computer, things that really reshaped the way that we live our lives, these things end up becoming nearly invisible. Like the engine, which was a huge deal, now doesn't even exist in the newest Tesla. It kind of drives itself, and these things conform to our lives. The computer used to be the size of a building. Now it fits in our pocket. This technology tends to become invisible, become efficient, become optimized to the way that it benefits us and helps our lives and changes the way we do a lot. And I assume the same with Lightning. Channels will start to evaporate. Liquidity issues will evaporate. Routing nodes won't be seen. The whole UX will be tailored to however it benefits us best. And that stuff will take time. 18 months, I like that. I think we'll be in a good place in 18 months. But more short term, you can expect to see consumer-facing mainnet Zap and Lightning Labs and other projects. Hopefully before the year's over, that'll be production ready with no #reckless attached to it.
Wow, that is awesome, man. We can remove the #reckless by the end of the year. That's pretty awesome. Like, because I didn't really expect it to be maybe that fast. But this is what happens. The time goes by fast in this space, and people evolve things quickly. Like Bitcoin years is just at least 10x, I think, normal amount of time. And you made a couple of good points in there, Jack. Like the infrastructure. I mean, nothing really gets completely mainstream until the infrastructure is built. Once that's built, then the mainstream can come on. Once we have to build the rails, we're still actually building the rails. And as Jack said, there's just a couple of pieces left, like AMP, like a couple, like getting this stuff ready to work. For example, like making channels disappear into the background. There's just a couple of these things left, and maybe even I don't even think they've begun actually working on programming the routing part, because the routing part of Lightning is at this point essentially complete and thought of and well thought of and has consensus for how it's going to work. It just actually now has to be programmed. Like that. Is that correct, Jack?
Yeah. So I know that this is a more technical show, so I can go into some stuff if that's what the crowd wants. But
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a, just so you know, this is more of a technical show, so feel free to use as many acronyms as you want.
let's do it. Let's do it. So the idea, there will actually be separate routing software. So nodes that intend on providing liquidity to the network and routing payments, there will be separate software, and the way that you use the software will be different. So let me explain. For example, for consumer facing clients like Zap, like Lightning app, what we will start doing is not announcing the channels being opened as public. Why? Is because we don't want the network to think that these nodes that are opening these channels are reliable for routing. For example, if all of the channels that are open on my cell phone right here were public channels, no one would be able to route through it right now because it's not online. I'm just chilling with Vortex on the show. We don't want that. We want to really improve routing and the efficiency of routes. So consumers will now flag as channels they open to be private so that the network doesn't route through them. Autopilot will open private channels for you for consumer stuff, and then there will be totally separate routing software and software more geared towards people that want to come onto the network with a lot of Bitcoin, provide a lot of liquidity, and with their main intention, not to make a few payments at Starbucks, but to help the growth of the network and route payments. So that I know is just on the cusp. Lalu spoke briefly, I forget where, but Roast Beef spoke briefly about his plans with that. And Brian Vu of Lightning Labs had a fantastic blog post on routing and what that may look like over the next foreseeable future, which was fantastic. So yeah, routing has ways to go. Autopilot has ways to go. It's actually insane how much traction things have gotten and how well things actually work. Getting something to work is really fucking hard, and things actually work with not a lot of attention. There's not routing is very low level, not sophisticated at all. There's no AMP. A lot of the stuff you have to do is manual. It takes time. There's a learning curve is still fairly steep. I mean, things like Zap lessen it, but I don't. We're not nearly as close as to where I want it to be. So far, I'm very impressed with that shit actually works. But you're spot on in that no one is even paying attention to optimizing this stuff yet, just based on priorities. And as soon as AMP and autopilot and routing software gets implemented and we start to aim for ideal topology of the network, which would be make routing efficient and be ideal, we're really going to moon, man, as far as Lightning goes. Price will be price.
It's so funny because, you know, people are like, routing is just, it's not figured out. They have no idea what's going to happen. You know, some of the people, some of the B caches out there, they're like, routing is just unknown. It's just a huge unknown. And it's like, no, guys, they literally barely even scratched the surface of attempting to optimize that yet. First, it was just getting everything working. I mean, this was only, the beta was only, live on mainnet early this year, like February, March. So, again, this is all early days, but, you know, Jack is saying that, you know, by the end of the year, most of the stuff will be figured out. And I think we agree that within 18 months, I mean, guys, within 18 months, 12 to 18 months, this stuff will be ready for mainstream. The channels will be basically disappeared. You'll be using your Zap Lightning wallet to go to your local store to pay with Lightning, just like a Venmo or a PayPal. And the reality, the dream of microtransactions, all of these things over Lightning will be here, guys, within 12 to 18 months. So it's interesting how impatient some people can be. To me, you know, 12 to 18 months for this amazing technology and how far we've come just this year, like with things like AMP, it's just absolutely mind-boggling. So I'm just absolutely really, really excited for the next 12 to 18 months, because I really think, guys, this is what I've been telling people on my podcast and telling people on other podcasts, that we are almost here. Within 12 to 18 months, you know, Bitcoin scaling will have been not just solved, but actually out there and being executed. So that's the big thing, because I think it's already for the most part solved. I mean, we have Lightning. This is the way we're going to go. So now there's a lot of people focused on privacy. So maybe we can get a little bit into that, because I don't know how much work you've been doing with that, Jack, but there has of course been work on the hidden wallet from the Power 73, using the C# N Bitcoin library, where he created the very first mainnet Chaumium CoinJoin transaction with I think about 7 people. And I think his latest is he's got up to about 15 or 20 people, I think, is his latest transaction. So maybe you can comment a little bit about that, and maybe where you see privacy heading, and maybe what you've been working on as far as privacy, or what you like that people are working on in the privacy space within Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm a fan of all the work you just mentioned. I obviously don't have the time. I wish a day was longer than it is, but I don't have the time to work on it myself. But it's funny, though. I was in a meeting today, and an institutional investor was like, so how do I report my routing? Like, let's say Ross Ulbricht or some drug dealer sells something that the feds don't like, and my node happens to route it. How do I put my hands up and be like, no, I don't want that, and tell everyone and report that to the IRS? Like, I'm not sure you can, man. Everything is encrypted. There's no data leaks. You can't do the equivalent of chain analysis on the Lightning Network. It is touted as a scaling solution, but it very much enhances privacy, because the relationship between nodes is not global. You don't have to announce your coffee transaction, to the entire world. It is link to link. So it was a very funny conversation to be had, because privacy enhancements seem to benefit and get a lot of people giddy. And there's a lot of people that it scares the shit out of. And that's just the nature of where finance is today, and regulators, and how comfortable they are with this stuff. But that's okay. I thought it was fascinating, though, because I obviously was very excited. And I was like, no, dude, check this out. You can't tell anything. Like, routing nodes can't report who the sender and receiver was. They're just forwarding HTLCs. And the guy was like, wait, what? That scares the shit out of me. And I was cracking up. I was like, oh my God, I've never heard that opinion before. But it makes sense, obviously. I understand where he's coming from for the job he performs. But it was very funny to hear that perspective. Anywho, my privacy related stuff and where I'm most literate is obviously Lightning, but I'm a big fan of all of the stuff going on with CoinJoin and Wasabi Wallet and all the works. As a holder of Bitcoin, I think privacy, scaling, adding utility to this asset is good for me. So.
Absolutely, man. That is just so funny that it scares people, because I mean, as it should. I mean, this is true permissionless value transfer, true censorship resistance in a decentralized network that nobody, no government, no entity, no corporation, no bank, no court, no anybody can actually stop. And so that I would imagine that's going to start scaring people when they finally start realizing what's happening. And remember, guys, the people were super scared about the internet too. They're like, what do you mean anybody can have a following of thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that they can just on a whim to send a message to, and have the power of the printing press, like the entire New York Times? Everybody can have the power of the New York Times? Is that what you're telling me? And yes, that's what basically happened. Now anybody who chooses to do so can essentially have the power of the New York Times. If you can build up a following and follow your passion enough to the point to where people will come out and seek what you have to say, you can build up a following. It's crazy that sometimes I think it's crazy that I have as many followers as I do. I don't know what the hell you guys are doing, trying to follow me. But look, I'm just going to be talking about a whole lot of Bitcoin crap. So there's apparently some kind of interest, and of course, during the bull run, that's where we get like the majority of all of this interest, right? During the big bull run of last year, all of our followers, Jack, like everybody, across the board, I saw everybody just shooting up like thousands of followers per day. I think Tone Vase asked Jimmy Song the other day, it's like, are you getting any followers at all? Like it's hard to tell because they were just so used to these thousands of followers. And so, yeah, the interest is, I think, going to come back once the market comes back. And of course, this is the time that we build. It's all cyclical. It's all there. Nothing has changed. The price is the only thing that's changed. The fundamentals, the network, people like Jack are still building out here, still confident in the honey badger. We have no freaking problem with the price where it is, no qualms of where it's going to go. This is economics asserting itself, and there's just nothing that anybody can do about it. So I'm really, really happy to see that those people are scared, because those are the type of people that we are trying to usurp, replace, route around, and and even help too at some point. Because look, we want everybody to get privacy. We want everybody to have access to privacy and access to this permissionless value transfer. And that's what Bitcoin does. Doesn't matter where you are, what skin color you are, how old you are, what country you're in, Bitcoin will serve you. And so too will the Lightning Network. So excellent talk so far, Jack. Let me just ask you if you have anything else maybe to close it out, or anything you want to say. The panel is yours. Talk about the future or whatever you want to do, Jack. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess throughout the conversation, the one thing I would stress again is like timelines with Lightning and trying to give dates and stuff is really hard and borderline irresponsible on my part. So, but I would like to caution that and say that similar to Bitcoin, so when we look back at Bitcoin's history and we think, when did this protocol really arrive? When did the lights turn on and get bright and shit? Now it's here and everyone's going to be rich and everything in the world's going to change. It's like unclear, right? Like there was a point in time where Bitcoin was valuable and interesting, and the characteristics and value propositions of the system were appealing to a small group. And then it kind of improved and it matured, and the group and audience that was interested grew and grew. And there was never a certain date and time where it kind of just arrived. It's slowly matured and adapted and is grown. And similar will be for Lightning, similar to how the internet kind of arrived. So I would say that, if you're waiting for Lightning to be this Venmo-esque, walk into Starbucks, scan a QR code, don't even have to worry about channels or liquidity or anything, that may take a little bit of time. But there's also solutions that impact people today. Like if we can set up the infrastructure necessary on exchanges so that traders can arbitrage efficiently, high frequency trade, avoid slippage, like that type of stuff is super valuable and available today. So with Lightning in general, I would say public perception is funny. I don't think Lightning will ever arrive according to mainstream media and such. It'll just forever be knocking on the door. But yeah, I would just caution. I always feel guilty leaving shows being like, yeah, before the year's over, like we're gonna be out doing Square, and that's a dangerous thing to claim. So that would be my thing. Is today Lightning can really benefit a lot, like remittance exchanges. It can make markets extremely efficient. All of a sudden, tactical high frequency trading can be possible if the right infrastructure is in place. And this is with the Lightning Network we currently have today. And then the more consumer-facing Lightning Network, where we've got merchant services and on-ramp, off-ramp for fiat, and abstracting a lot of the complexity and reducing the learning curve. That's going to take a little bit more time, but it's coming. So I guess that will be my last word of clarity before I prepare to sign off.
Well, hey, Jack, guess what? I'm going to throw you a curveball, and because I just thought of some more stuff to talk about.
Whoa, let's do it.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy, Jack. So I hope you have more of your Starbucks drink there. For those listening to the audio, there is some chatter in the background. So that is because Jack is at a Starbucks right now, and he was in a meeting. He rushed back. He couldn't get quite home in time to be with us, so he just stopped right off anyway and made sure that he was made sure he was here on time for you guys to be able to listen. So we thank you, Jack, again for that, man. But I did think some other stuff. But before I get into that real quick, I do want to say one thing. There's some chatter in the chat room that we lovingly call the troll box, our public YouTube chat here. There's some people saying that Bitcoin is property in the US, and it's this and that, and all of these different things. And it's just, I find it so funny when people say these type of things, because Bitcoin is global, guys. Bitcoin doesn't care what the US thinks Bitcoin is, or what the IRS or what any single entity within the United States government actually thinks it is. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It is what we say it is. It is what we say it is with our full nodes, and anything else is just arbitrary. People are like, how are we going to tax this? Are we going to have to tax like Lightning channels opening and closing? And it's like, oh my God, so far missing the point. So far missing the point that this essentially makes taxes irrelevant at one day, at some point. I mean, this is a new way to pay. This is a new way to think about value. We're not going to be restrained by these crazy constraints of the previous financial system, guys. We're going to build a permissionless This is what Bitcoin is. There is nobody telling us what we can and cannot build. So we will continue without permission to build what we want to build, whether the US thinks it's this or that. It doesn't freaking matter, guys. So I just wanted to get that out of there. Maybe Jack, you can quickly comment on that before I get into the next topic.
Yeah. So I actually have two things. First, I think last night there was a pull request submitted to LND that implements CoinJoin within LND. So I know that it wasn't
awesome.
it wasn't with the intention that it'll be production ready tomorrow, but it was more to get code out in the public, generate discussion so that devs can start to talk about it. But as far as like tracing, closing transactions of channels and trying to tax them, it's actually funny timing because I know that I think it was Adam Gibson submitted a PR that is low-level CoinJoin implementation within LND for roast beef to take a peek at. I saw over IRC, someone mentioned it. So that's funny timing of that. Thought I would mention it there. And then also, I think this is semi-related with ETF talks. And there's been talks of, I know Andreas made a pretty public statement stating on one side that he's not for ETFs or a lot of these financial products that have custodians behind them. I know Peter Willa shared a similar sentiment of what I'm going to say. I don't think Bitcoin arrived to dictate how anyone should act in their own financial right, however much private they'd like to be, however self-sovereign they would like to act. Bitcoin is here to make sure that all of your rights are guaranteed to you. And if you would like to run a full node and verify everything yourself and CoinJoin your transactions and efficiently, pay micropayments off chain, that you can. But of course, you can opt to diversify a portfolio or hedge into a new asset through an ETF or through a brokerage as well. I don't think as Bitcoiners, I think it's a dangerous line to walk to start to dictate exactly how people can act in their own financial right. If someone wants to own an ETF and has no problem trusting, the CBOE to hold their Bitcoins for them and would take a certificate instead of private keys to a UTXO, that's in their right. And I think that's totally okay. So I think as Bitcoiners, we're very protective of these characteristics of the system that Satoshi gave us and that we've fought hard to protect and develop, things like UASF, and we hold our own ground and we run our own full nodes, and we're very protective, and that's what makes this community and this asset great and gives it value. But I am a fan of a lot of the traditional finance getting into this asset. It's very important for the growth of it, for it to mature. And as long as a user can act self-sovereignly and choose like a sliding scale, the amount of trust and risk that they are exposed to, then that is within their right. And I think that these products are all great and doing good justice to this asset that is now Bitcoin. So I'd like to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. I've said this on other podcasts and I'll say it here again. Look, Wall Street and the rest of the world wants Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need Wall Street. Let me say that one more time for the viewers, guys. Listen to this. Wall Street wants Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need Wall Street because Bitcoin is going to consume the global financial system, whether they like it or not. So they can either play ball or they can lose all their money, right? They can lose their value. You have to hedge against the crumbling traditional financial system, and to do that, you do that with Bitcoin. And so this was just the financialization of Bitcoin and integration of Bitcoin into the mainstream financial system was inevitable. This was always going to happen. Bitcoin is money. It is the most sound money this planet has ever seen. So of course, Wall Street's going to enter. And so now, of course, let me get some comments on this real quick, Jack, because I just thought of this. People are talking about like Katie Long with her recent article, I think in New York Times, about how the ETFs like backed could do fractional reserves, and it's all fractional reserve. So it's going to ruin Bitcoin. The ETFs are going to ruin Bitcoin. And my personal comment is that first of all, it is physically delivered, so you can't really do too many shenanigans anyway. But there is, of course, a time delay. But there's just no way that, in my opinion, that one single ETF like that can, completely destroy Bitcoin with some kind of fractional reserve thing, because Bitcoin exists on so many millions of computers across the world because it is, in fact, decentralized. So let me get your comments, Jack, real quick on this, on maybe people talking about fractional reserve with Bitcoin and some of these Katie Long comments as they directly relate to the ETF and backed.
Yeah, so I think traditional finance and their use case and the demand coming from them for Bitcoin is entirely different than some of like the libertarian focused early adopters and such. So these people see a new asset class that is very binary, it has asymmetric upside. You're either in or you're out. You can't really dip your toe in the water. No one wants to be in a position to chase a new asset class that works and that's here to stay. So all these people want is exposure. It's a very different use case than wanting to make transactions in private or to validate their own full nodes. And some of these people do so, at their own home. Some of these people are Bitcoin maximalists when they take the suit off. But when you're talking about billions of dollars active under management, when you're talking about managing a portfolio, when you're talking about wanting to reduce risk, when you have the general market hitting all-time highs, the Dow hitting all-time highs, and you would like to diversify into uncorrelated assets, into new assets like Bitcoin, I mean, the use case is entirely different. So these products are not meant for the cypherpunk, decentralized, kind of aura that we reek throughout the world nowadays. These are meant for an entirely different class of individuals that, now that Bitcoin is an established new asset, allow them to get exposure accordingly, and they can do so however they want. They can buy the underlying, and they can go through an OTC desk and hold their private keys in a vault in their basement, or they can buy the CME future. It's all up to them. So that would be my general response. And then as far as like fractional reserve banking on top of an ETF, I don't know about that. I mean, I know that learning from history, we know that gold ran into some issues when banks controlled majority of the supply, and they were able to divorce paper notes from the backing of gold. Bitcoin, I don't see that happening anytime soon, at least. So I don't see real threats here. I think that Bitcoiners are over paranoid from its inevitable fate with traditional finance, because it is a real asset class. We do want it to be the world reserve currency. We want it to be here to stay and really uproot a lot of the evils that come with traditional finance today. So I think it's inevitable. I think it's a good thing, as long as we don't bend at the knees and break to things like block size increases and further centralization and such, and that anyone can download the blockchain, run a full node, and validate their own transactions. You can build centralized systems on top of a decentralized one. You cannot build a decentralized system on top of a centralized one. So I see no harm, no foul, in my opinion. It's all good for the asset.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some people are like, they're just gonna like buy it all up and short it, and it's like, I'm like, dude, let them try. The market will buy that freaking shit up so fast, dude. The market will buy up Bitcoin at lower prices so fast it'll make your head spin. There is so many
Well,
billionaires, right? There's so many people
it,
circling, waiting for Bitcoin. Go ahead.
and
Sorry.
also, like, no, it's totally fine. I also laugh. So my dad and I have some finance background in my family, obviously, and we love to like screenshot shit on Twitter and laugh, um, just because a lot of this stuff like literally makes no sense. They're gonna buy it all and short it. They're gonna buy an asset and then bet on it going down. So they're just gonna lose themselves money. That's fine. Hey, CME, if you would like to buy Bitcoin from me at 6,500, then force the price down, lose all your money, and sell it back to me at 2,000. I'll be here and I'll be a buyer, no problem. Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I love to laugh at that stuff. And I don't think that these people are trying to spread misinformation or be malicious or whatever. It's just overprotective Bitcoiners, and I love us all for that. We stand our ground. This is the money that is dictated and validated by the people, and not vice versa, and that what gives it value. So I don't criticize for that opinion, but I don't think that there's a lot of meat behind some of these accusations. They don't really tend to make a lot of sense when you dissect them.
It's so true, man. It's just so ridiculously so far off. It's just laughable. And so yeah, I'll join you then in and having a good laugh at some of these people that are afraid of ETFs like shorting Bitcoin into nothing. So that's just really good stuff. All right, well, appreciate that opinion, Jack. Listen, before we go, let me get a couple of opinions from you. So about decentralized exchanges, do you think that with Lightning that this is going to be possible to actually have decentralized exchanges with enough liquidity and short enough and to be fast enough to be able to actually support like some of these day traders that really need these millisecond times? And if you think that's possible, when do you think we can see that? I mean, again, of course, our predictions are tentative, guys. We're just trying to have a conversation. But do you see decentralized exchanges with atomic swaps fully everywhere within 18 months as well?
That one I would be a bit more cautious. Only because it's just a matter of like what's priority, right? There's only a handful of people that are capable and willing to work on this stuff, and which one do we want first? Do we want general infrastructure and consumer facing wallets, or do we want to be able to swap Bitcoin for Lightning atomically? I mean Litecoin, excuse me. So it's a matter of priority. So I would be a bit cautious with atomic swap timelines. However, I know Spark Swap is a command line tool that allows you to do atomic swaps today with Bitcoin and Litecoin. I just got a note that they are looking for market makers and liquidity providers to their service. And that could be really cool. Spark Swap, if we can land a UI on top of that, and we can get some liquidity providers and market makers to their service, we can start to play with that today. So I do like the idea. I think that Lightning in general can reduce a lot of the custodian risks that investors and traders encounter. Maybe not so much atomic swaps right away, atomic swaps one day, but even today, right now, if I want to trade $1 million on Bitfinex, I have to deposit $1 million worth of Bitcoin and trust that they don't explode and lose it all. What I can do instead, as long as they support the Lightning Network, is I can open a channel with however much so funds I want. That way, if Bitfinex explodes, it's in a 2-2 multi-sig, and I can close the channel out and take my funds back. And if I ever want to execute a trade on Bitfinex, I'll zip it over the Lightning Network. It'll be deposited within a second, no fees, and I can execute trades at market while keeping ownership of my own coins. And even that it's not as far as a decentralized exchange, but the improvement of not handing your coins over to a centralized authority and encountering such risk just by using the Lightning Network is a vast improvement that I would expect much sooner than per se a fully decentralized exchange with atomic swaps where market making is magic and stuff like that. That may take a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but you see that coming though, right? I mean, you see that. Do you see that as an inevitability over the next couple of years? I mean, because like you say, we have to make choices and create priority of what we want first. But do you see that as something that is just an inevitability?
Yeah. So Bitcoin is big enough now where any demand will be met, right? So this is an ecosystem. There's plenty of money and entrepreneurs are now rewarded. So if there's sufficient demand for anything, there will be something that is built for it. Even so, with like ICOs, there was a sufficient demand to diversify into this asset class, to risk money, to become a speculator. And ICOs fit the bill, and entrepreneurs went out and shipped a ton of a pile of bullshit and sold it because there were demand for it. This industry is now big enough, and resources and money are there where if there's sufficient demand for a decentralized exchange, it will exist, and I have no doubt about that. So it is just a matter of time, a matter of priority, and a matter of resources as far as devs go. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Great points. And I agree 100% wholeheartedly that it's going to come. It's going to be here. If the market demands it, it's going to be here. And I think that the market will demand it because they're just sick of these centralized exchanges. And I think they want to really evolve the decentralized exchange to the point to where we can get it to be as efficient as a centralized. Now, some people are thinking that might be impossible, but hey, never say never, man. With the Lightning Network and then even maybe possibly layers above the Lightning Network, this stuff evolves and it evolves fast. And if the market wants it, it will be there. And since we have a sound money at the base of all of this, anything is possible because of that. It is now just a matter of time, right?
yeah, well, so I think an important note here is that exchanges actually aren't all bad and evil. They provide a super important service, and that is providing you an order book, liquidity, inviting market makers and such to facilitate, deeply liquid trading so that you can buy and sell Bitcoin. What we don't like about exchanges is that they seem to be this central point of failure where if they combust or get hacked or explode or whatever the case is, that all funds go down with them. The whole building is burned down. And we can actually improve on that today without any type of huge overhaul or protocol enhancements or BIPs or anything of the sort. If we implement Lightning, where everyone just trades on exchanges like Bitfinex or Coinbase, GDAX, or BitMEX, just using Lightning channels so that they are in ownership of their said so funds, and anytime they would like to trade, they zip it over a channel to the exchange and execute on market there. Well, then all of a sudden, exchanges aren't the central point of failure. They aren't a custodian of everyone's funds, and they get to do what they're good at, and that's make book, provide a liquid market, which is a valuable service. We need that. So I wouldn't even tout them as such bad guys. I really think that the whole story on exchanges is going to change as soon as they start to implement Lightning and necessarily infrastructures in place, because they won't be custodians. If they get hacked, if an exchange gets hacked, they can't steal the money that's in a Lightning channel with me. I've got my keys. So I think that will be Lightning will really make our market more efficient, more secure, and really change the perspective for traders and exchanges. It won't just be consumer facing stuff. This is a big deal for how the general market operates.
Man, that's such a great point, Jack. Like, it's so hard to predict these things. We're like decentralized exchanges, but what's really going to happen is, just like you said, it's probably going to be a hybrid. These centralized exchanges will probably just start allowing the ability to use Lightning, and eventually everybody will just start using that because they have access. They have 100% custodial ownership over their own funds, which was the number one problem with exchanges. If we can get rid of that problem, we can use exchanges. So really interesting to see what a great point of how, again, Lightning can create efficiency in this market. There's just so many efficiencies that Lightning creates, from this to the ability to have an interest rate on your Bitcoin. As I don't know if you've been reading, paying attention to that, but that's just really cool. Some of the articles that have been written out about that, the Lightning R&R, I forget what that stands for now, but there's a bunch of podcasts about it. Really interesting stuff. So just maybe one last little comment from you, maybe about submarine swaps. Maybe you can explain a little bit about that, because from my understanding, the main point of this is to be able to go in and out of Lightning. So be able to trade Bitcoin from a Lightning channel to an on-chain while the Lightning channel is still open. So let me go ahead and correct me if that's wrong, and maybe explain a little bit more about submarine swaps.
No, you're correct, and vice versa. So the idea, so that's Alex Bosworth. I don't think it's his idea. I don't know. There's many people that claims various ideas, but Alex has definitely taken the baton. So shout out to Alex. And so the idea is that you can swap on chain. So you can send from on chain to a pre-image, basically. So you can swap from on chain to within Lightning and vice versa. And this greatly enhances the user experience and is very, very, very ideal. So I can basically buy liquidity on the Lightning Network without having to open channels and such. And this is just stuff that needs to be implemented in wallets, and the end user experience just has to be crafted. So at Zap, we 100% intend on making this accessible, at least through our desktop wallet. The mobile wallet we really want to keep tailored towards mainstream consumer, but our desktop wallet, we definitely want to offer this type of stuff. It'll greatly enhance user experience and the onboarding and off ramp of getting in and out of the Lightning Network, so that we really want channels to live forever. We don't want them to close. If they close, they close, but it's obviously not ideal. So to be able to move funds on and off without closing channels is a big deal. So
absolutely, man.
Definitely a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's great because there's people out there like the Edge wallet, right? Paul Pui, who likes to say that Lightning is an altcoin because it's stuck in Lightning, and the fact of the matter is that is 100% untrue. First of all, you can always just close the damn channel, but second of all, now we have this thing called submarine swaps where we can literally add and remove liquidity from a channel without even opening or closing the channel. We can add and remove liquidity to the Lightning Network without ever closing the channel, and so that's just awesome. I mean, channels, if they want, can just live forever now because of ideas like this. So that is just really great. And I think we got to end it soon, Jack. So I've had just an amazing time, man, talking about all these technologies with you. I think we learned a lot. I hope the audience learned a lot. But Danny Brewster is consistent on wanted me to ask you this question, man. He's like, he wants to know the best Lightning dad joke. So maybe you can tell us that real quick before we head out.
I'm not a dad. Thank God I'm not a dad yet. I don't know, man. I don't know if I have an answer for you. If Danny wants to drop his Twitter handle and let me sleep on it, I'll be happy to tweet out a dad joke once I get one. I'll call my dad and ask if he has a lightning joke. And
Absolutely.
but I
No
can't
problem.
speak out of my role, out of term. I'm not a dad yet. I don't plan to be for a little bit. So
All right, good. Well, we hope not, Jack. We need
sorry,
all of
Danny.
your time. We need all of your time. Sorry, Jack's parents. You're just not. You're not going to get a grandkid yet. We need Jack right now. Maybe just give us a couple of years. Just give us 18 months, maybe, and then maybe we can start worrying about Jack having kids. But until then, Jack, we need your unfettered attention, man, to the Lightning Network. So we really appreciate all that you do, Jack, for the community, all that you do for Lightning, and we just really appreciate it. And as you say, you guys are just building on top of the stuff that Lalu and Lightning Labs and Async and these other people are doing. So we thank them so much. We thank all the people working on the Lightning Network and on the Lightning protocol itself, LND and all of that good stuff to to be able to, and of course even the Blockstream implementation as well. C Lightning. We just thank everybody working on in the ecosystem on these protocols, because so that application developers like Jack can make these amazing wallets on top of it, so that other people can use those wallets to build even more amazing software. And so we're all just gonna keep building this together. And again, Jack, really appreciate the time. We're going to let you go. I'm sure you've got things to do, and we try to keep the show to about an hour. So before we go, let's let the audience know, where can we find out more information about you, Jack?
Yeah, so I spend majority of my time on the internet. Just Jack Mallers on Twitter. I'm in every Slack that I'm aware of, and I'm usually Jimmy Mao on there, Jimmy Mao on Xbox. So that's my online handle. And yeah, dude, I love coming on these shows. I used to watch them faithfully years ago. Every Sunday, I would go make sure I got lunch in time to sit and watch the Bitcoin news show. So the fact that I'm a guest now, I love it so much. So every time is a pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me on.
You bet, man. Yeah, we're gonna get you back on the Bitcoin News Show. This, of course, is Deciphered, where I try to do like a one-on-one interview with people in the space. But yeah, we got to get you back on our weekly panel show on Sundays at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, where we do talk about the week's news about Bitcoin. So we'll definitely get you back on there, Jack. The people in the chat are already like, make Jack a regular guest, and like it's like, guys, wait, Jack's got stuff to do. People, like we're not trying to bug him too much, and we're trying to only take a little bit of his time. So again, thanks, Jack, so much for joining. Thanks everybody for joining in the live chat. Thanks everybody for joining wherever you guys are in the world. We really appreciate it. So before we go, please, we ask that if you guys are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, if you guys like the show, give us a thumbs up, so that helps us get into more people's feeds. And again, guys, until next time, keep talking Bitcoin. We'll see you later.